Welcome to Broad Eye, the podcast that explores knowledge gaps in ophthalmology and eye care. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Broad Eye podcast. My name is Sean Maloney, and today I'm going to be interviewing Lex Gillette. So Lex is a 5-time Paralympic athlete and an all-around interesting guy. So Lex, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Sean? How are you?
Good. I'm happy to be chatting again. It's fun to have someone like you on the other end here that I can put in the hot seat and ask all kinds of questions to. We're gonna dive into career and training and everything in between. So I think it'll be fun. But I was hoping maybe we could start off just with talking a little bit about your backstory, right? So you have a visual impairment, and I was hoping that maybe you can just tell the story of like how did that happen, and maybe what age you were, just to give a little bit of context for people listening, and maybe some of the initial challenges or even how that was all received, by your family as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I literally came home from school one day. I was born with sight, so I could see up until I was 8 years old. And I come home from school one day, went through my normal routine. That evening, as I was getting ready for bed, I was actually inside of the bathtub washing myself up. I started realizing that something was different with my eyesight. Things were starting to look blurry and look faint. My mom had thought maybe I had gotten something in my eyes from playing outside earlier in the day. We took some water, cleaned my eyes out. Didn't help the situation, so we went to the doctor, had an examination. After that examination, they said that as in the doctor said that I was suffering from retina detachments. And that led us to the first of 10 operations that I had that year alone, that 1 year that I was 8 years old, to try and fix retina detachments. It was go to the doctor, have that operation. I would be able to see well for about 3 to 4 weeks. And after that time, my sight would get blurry again. We would have another examination, retina is detached again, have another operation. I could see well, sight stabilized for about 3 to 4 weeks. After that time, sight began to get even more blurry than what it was previously. So that was the pattern for the entire time that I was 8 years old. And after the last operation, the doctor said that there wasn't anything else they could do to help my sight. So as you can imagine, at 8 years old, yeah, I mean, it was definitely challenging. It was difficult, but my mom has been a really amazing influence in my life, and I had her as a really good example, largely because she has glaucoma. Even though she has usable sight, I never really saw her as someone who had a disability or a visual impairment, because she was a go-getter. She was making sure that I had everything that I needed, and she went to work and she would come home and she would go with me to different programs or sporting events once I got into athletics. And yeah, I just never really saw her as someone who was incapable. That really served as a great example for me. She was a really good role model and really established this mindset of no excuses.
I think that's something that you clearly embody that now, right? That's probably something that you has something really important that you've taken from your mother. I think in our previous conversation, if I'm not mistaken, you had mentioned that athletics comes from your mother's side of the family. So I was hoping maybe you can just talk about that a little bit, and also, why athletics? Like, what drew you into athletics in general, as a kid?
So yeah, the athletics comes from my mom's side of the family. My mom, my aunties, uncle, grandmother, grandfather, everyone played some sort of sport. And even prior to me losing my sight, I can vaguely remember going to some of their softball games. They would play in adult leagues and things like that. So go out there and watch them play softball, baseball. There was nothing for the family to be out in my grandmother's backyard. She has a very large backyard. People out there running around having a good time. And that was, I was a part of that prior to me losing my sight. And my mom had gotten me into different things like learning to swim. And I used to play rec league baseball when I was a little guy. Once I lost my sight, the challenge was, number one, being able to transition from once being able to see and then now being blind. But from there, it was my mom finding different programs and resources. And one of those things being adaptive sports and rec. I learned about goalball, I learned about baseball, learned about just so many different uh just so many different things. And so, once I successfully transitioned to this world of blindness, if you will, and once I got a lot more comfortable with maneuvering around, I was running around outside with my friends and having a good old time, having a great time. So um getting to that space was huge because it really elevated my confidence and self-esteem. And once I got into middle school, I was introduced to track and field. I was a shot putter in 8th grade, which is really funny because at that time I don't know, I might have been like 5'6", 5'7", maybe 100 pounds. And I'm throwing this shot put. I don't think that they were 16 pounds in middle school, probably a little less, but I'm a smaller kid throwing this shot put, but nevertheless, I was out there part of a team, hanging out with friends. My mom would show up to the meets and things like that. So that was really awesome. But it wasn't until I got into high school, that's when I really found my love for track and field. And it was through this physical fitness test where a lot of kids in the school had to participate. You had a number of different activities that you had to complete: pull-ups, sit-ups, push-ups. One of the activities was standing long jumps, stand in one spot, jump as far as you can. I was one of the best in my class. I was the best in my class and one of the best in the entire school. From there, my teacher, the visually impaired, Mr. Whitmer, told me about the Paralympics. He takes me out to the track one day, shows me everything about the long jump, including the runway, how wide the runway is, how long it is. Shows me that there is a takeoff board in the ground. That's where you jump from. Shows me the long jump pit, the width of it, the length of it. I was able to gain an idea of what that environment looked like. He then told me that this is a strategy. This is how we're going to do it. I'm going to stand at the takeoff board. I'm going to clap and yell. You can't see where I'm standing, but you can hear me. And as with any jumper, sighted or not, they know how many strides that it takes for them to navigate from start to finish. We're going to establish the right amount of steps for you. You're going to count those steps in your head, and at the right step, you'll jump, soar through the air, and land in the sand. And of course, in the beginning, it was definitely challenging. It was definitely frightening. But as with all things, you continue to work at it, work at it, work at it. And hopefully on that road, you have some amazing people who will help you and invest time and energy into you. And they will help you ascend to heights that you previously didn't see.
Wow, no, that's amazing. Now you mentioned, I think you said Mr. Whitmore. Was he? You said he was visually impaired also?
Yes, he was my visually impaired teacher, but yes, he does have a visual impairment. I want to say he has optic nerve atrophy, so he certainly has usable eyesight for sure. But yeah, he was another person who really helped to shatter this idea of, okay, well, if you have a disability, then you must, life must be difficult for you, or you might just endure some huge challenges. But hanging around him and my mom, they totally obliterated that thinking.
And which is amazing, right? Like it's we all kind of have to accept our reality and deal with it, right? So, and you certainly have done that. I just wanted to dig in a little bit more into the training. Like, I find it interesting in general. You talked about some of the adaptations. are there any other training related adaptations that, as somebody with a visual impairment, you have had to make, and or in terms of competition, generally speaking, let's say in the Paralympics for long jump or even other events that come to mind that you have a lot of experience in, what are some of the other adaptations? And the reason I want to bring this up is just for people listening to this to, recognize how you or, the sport in general has looked at some of the challenges with training or competing, and, found ways to circumvent those and allow people to compete at a very high level.
For sure. You of course, you take the long jump, for example, where you have your guide standing in one location, which the reason that they don't run with you, run alongside you, I think a couple reasons. Number one, it's a Paralympic, it's a rule. So they have to stand stationary, and the athlete has to navigate by themselves down the runway. And then number two, it would be pretty difficult to run alongside someone and then at the very last minute you kind of disconnect from them and then you jump into the sand pit. I mean, you would really have to be on your P's and Q's to make sure that would be seamless and a successful outcome. But to that point, when you're on the track and you're participating in a running event, you're designated 2 lanes, 1 lane for you, 1 lane for your guide. And for all of the athletes who are participating in the 11 category, so for those listening, in the Paralympics, you have different disability classes, and the visually impaired category has 3 levels of visual impairment. You have the 11, 12, and 13 athletes. If you are identified as an 11, you're basically totally blind, or you might have light projection, light perception. If you are a 12 or a 13, there's a certain visual acuity that you have, and that's measured by or not the athletes, but the ophthalmologists or doctors that they have who are doing the classifications in the Paralympics. So you go through this, I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but you have to get you basically go through a number of tests, and they deem you to be 11, 12, or 13. I compete in the 11 category, and to ensure that everyone is in fact totally blind, they do require us to wear a blindfold. So getting back to the track, the athlete has on the blindfold, the guide, of course, does not. They're guiding the athlete down the track, around the curves, making sure that they navigate successfully from start line to finish line. And as they're running, the 2 of them have a tether which connects the tandem at the hand. So you're wanting to make sure that as you're running, you want to make sure that you're having the smoothest race possible, especially when you think about sprinting, where first place and fourth place can be separated by 0.2 of a second. And that is, I mean, you think about running down that track, sprinting as fast as you can. If you are not in sync with your guide, that is going to be something that hinders you. It's going to slow you down a little bit. You're going to be jockeying for a position, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that when you're running, for example, I start with my left foot forward and my right foot back, which means that opposite of your left leg forward would be your right arm is forward. Opposite of your right leg being back would mean your left arm is back. Your guide is wanting to mirror that. That is what's going to help you have a smooth race. So since I start with my left leg forward, right foot back, my guide, who is running on my right hand side, is going to have his left leg back and his right leg forward. So it's almost like a modern day three-legged race, if you will, but you're connected at the hand. And again, you're wanting to make sure that you have the smoothest race possible. And ensuring that it is a smooth race means that you're going to have to train Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, working on that to become one. And of course, you put in that training and you're able to go to the Paralympic Games. But those are, how the adaptations look when it comes to the track and field.
Well, that's amazing. Now, this is just a question, just out of personal interest. It has nothing to do with being visually impaired. Training in general, like other than what you just described, building the explosiveness needed for the long jump. What is your training regimen look like? Maybe at different cycles of of preparation, like when you're a year out, 6 months out, whatever.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So of course the Olympic and Paralympic cycle is typically 4 years. I say typically because this last cycle was 5 years, given the postponing of the games. So that was a little challenging. However, 4-year cycle, you look at your end goal. Where do you want to end up? What do you want to do? Of course, most athletes want to go to the games. You want to get on the podium. You want to win gold. We have that end goal and we work backwards. All right, well, this is where we want to be in year 4. This is where we want to be in year 3. This is where we want to be in year 2, year 1. And then we will look at the theme for each year. So you might have, in year 1, I'm really trying to work on strength. Year 2, the overall theme is power, or year 3, speed, things like that. And then you break it down even smaller and you look at it from month to month. Now, the thing that really stays consistent within each year is that those first couple months, 2 or 3 months, we rarely ever touch the runway to do any jumping. We are doing a lot of running, 200-meter repeats, 100-meter, 150-meter repeats, running up hills, lifting in the weight room, squats, power cleans. Unfortunately, my strength and conditioning coach does not let me do much of bench pressing, which is terrible because I'm in San Diego. You got the beach out here. I can't be looking, I can't look like out of like a fish out of water.
You walk around in board shorts. No one knows just how strong your legs are, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I need some proportion or something. Right. So we're doing everything that we do is a lot of core. It's a lot of legs. It is making sure that building that flexibility, making sure that you are establishing that foundation so that after those 3 months that you're building that foundation, now you can get to the technical aspects of training. Now you can do the box jumps and we can get on the runway and we work on the runway approach and we start to do some light jumping and we will then transition from that technical aspect to getting into the competition season. And once you get to the competition season, you have basically established a strong base, a strong foundation to be able to sustain a great competition year. And competition for me, typically I will start in mid to late April and it'll end at the championships, which will usually happen in July or August. So we'll have a world championships in 2022. I'm not sure. I think it's either in July or August, one of the two. We'll have another world championships in 2023. And then we'll have the Paralympic Games in 2024. So you're really wanting to make sure that you are crossing all your T's, dotting all your I's, making sure that each day that you're out there, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're achieving the goals that you have for that day, which then leads to, okay, these are the goals that we wanted to achieve for the month. We've done that. Then that leads into competition, and you're able to see what you're doing in those competitions. After you get those results, competition to competition, you're able to say, oh, okay, well, I could have done better in this area. I could have done better with my body positioning on the runway or on the track, when I'm in the air, when I'm flying through the air, landing in the sandpit. And you take that information, make the proper adjustments, so that once you get to the qualifiers, national championships, or the Paralympic trials, you are dialed in, you know exactly what you need to do. Boom, you make the team for world championships and the Paralympic Games. And you use that time in between the qualifiers and the championships to really dial it in and make sure that you are in the best position. Because once you get to Worlds and the Paralympics, you got to put it out there. You only have that one moment in time. So you want to make sure that you are in tip-top shape, and you know, making sure that when you get to the games or championships, that you are ready to roll.
You know, it's amazing, and you're describing this. It all sends chills through my spine. You know, I like to think, oh, hey, I'll work out 4 days a week in my home gym, and it's good, and it's just like the level of commitment needed to perform at the level you perform at. It's not like it's orders of magnitude above what, you know, anybody, myself included, who might call themselves a recreational athlete could, even fathom. Right? It is a vocation. It's not a, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to work out and get fit. Right? So
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, that's definitely true, but I think it's also important to note that, I mean, being physically active that's important, I believe, for all of us. And I think where the challenge is, where we as human beings fall into this trap is, you start to look at what other people are doing, and we fall into this space of comparing what we're doing to what I might be doing, or what another athlete is doing, when in actuality, it's all about setting goals for yourself and accomplishing those goals. If you want to get out there and your goal is to get a good jog in 30 minutes 4 days out of the week, do that. That's important. Really get out there and move around. If your goal is to, oh, okay, well, I want to stretch for 15-20 minutes a day, I want to meditate, I want to do some yoga, do that. All of those things are important. I literally, like, we do all of those things. We work on stretching, we do the Pilates, we do the yoga, we also work on our breathing. All of those things are important. And I think that for each of us as human beings, whether you consider yourself a highly competitive athlete, or you consider yourself recreational, if that's the word that you want to use, you set those goals and you go after that. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
no, it makes sense, and I think it's just recognizing that, and then there's always trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just venture a guess that I drink more beer than you do.
you,
you know,
yeah, you probably,
know,
you
maybe I'm
probably
wrong.
got me beat.
So I mean, like, there's trade-offs there, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the reality. It's like I'm not gonna run like you and jump like you if I drink beer like I do. But so I wanted to talk about Tokyo, a place we've both been. I was there I was there in 2015 as a tourist. You were there as an athlete. So we'll talk more about your experience. Just maybe just leading up to Tokyo, how it went, what it meant to you, any moments that stand out from the games.
Yeah, Tokyo was obviously interesting. I think an experience, an interesting experience across the board for many athletes, depending on their their situation. Of course, leading up to the games, it was challenging for a lot of us. I think that I consider myself blessed in the sense of, eventually I was still able to use the facility here in San Diego, California, but that was not the case for a lot of my teammates, and probably other athletes around the world. And I can't say, I mean, of course, I want everybody to be their absolute best. But what I was going to say is, I wanted more so my fellow Americans to be able to have everything that they needed leading up to Tokyo. And the reason I point that out is because I have friends who they were not able to get on the track at all. They were getting kicked out of different facilities because of the obvious COVID-19, the pandemic. And yeah, it was just challenging for every single one of us. Fortunately, we were able to get to Tokyo. It was definitely a different experience. I always tell people I only went to 4 places: the airport, the athletes village, the training venue, and the competition venue. We weren't allowed to go out into the city or anything like that, which I'm envious of you as a person who visited in 2015, a few years ago, because I'm pretty sure you had a phenomenal time. I had a phenomenal time too, but a part of that experience is going and checking out the culture, the food. Tokyo is an amazing place. I wanted to go to Tokyo Disney. I heard that they have like a real life Mario Kart situation that you can get on the streets and ride in the Bowser Kart or the Mario Kart. Um I'm pretty sure there's probably a Nintendo museum out there. There's so much going on in Tokyo, and that was the portion that we weren't able to experience, which that'll just give me another reason to go back in the future. But athletically speaking, yeah, we went to those 4 locations. Every day that we woke up, we had to provide a saliva sample for the COVID test. So before you brushed your teeth, before you drank water or anything, you had to provide that sample, and we had to take that sample up to a specific room and drop it in this bag. Which, as a side note, I would hate to be that person who had to take that bag and unleash those samples into whatever machine it was, because it's just wild to think about. um but but yeah, I mean, it was literally training, competition, competition venue. In previous games, you walk in, you hear the crowd, 80,000, 90,000 people screaming, yelling, cheering. PA announcer is on the loudspeaker. You hear music. There's a lot. Like, you literally feel that energy and that electricity inside of the stadium. This time it was more along the lines of, literally, when we showed up to the warm-up track to prepare for competition, dead silence. Didn't hear much of anything. Cicadas and her teammates who were also preparing to compete during that night session, that evening session. So that was right off the bat. It was like, oh wow. Then we go to the call tent, that's the area where, when they come on the loudspeaker and say, oh well, men's 11 long jump, report to the call room. Now you go to the call room, they're checking you in, making sure that you have the right uniform on and the right bib numbers, making sure that your shoes meet the appropriate length for the spikes, making sure that your blindfold is in fact opaque. They're running through your bags, all of those things, making sure you don't have any electronics in your bag. They take all electronics, cell phone, everything. Then they guide you from the call room to this other holding area, where that's like the point of no return. Once you get to that area, it's almost time to get out there and compete. There's another there's a warm-up track there. So there's a few lanes where you can put your spikes on and you can run around, get yourself moving, continuing to stay warm. They eventually get us all lined up, walk us out into the track. And again, in previous games, when you step out of out of that hallway, that tunnel that we walked through, and you walk up that incline and it eventually opens up into that stadium, oh, you hear absolutely everything. But this year you heard nothing at all. It was like being at a high school meet. And And you know what? It almost felt like we were at just a typical training session down here in Southern Cali. So uh, yeah, that was very interesting. But as with any competition, the atmosphere, it changes. Environments are different. Nevertheless, you have to be ready to go. Similar to how we were talking about the breakdown of the training cycle, you just got to tap into everything that you've been working on over the past year, 2, 3, 4 years, and put it all on display.
That's got to be, yeah. I guess that everybody's in the same playing field there, right? When you walk out and all that training, all that time, especially if you've been to 4 Paralympic events before that, and you've like just the rush of the 80,000 people, cheering and everything else. The I guess it brings up a question is, of the 5 that you've attended, what was your favorite, maybe, and why?
London 2012, absolute favorite right now. I will say, as an aside, I truly believed that had it been a non-pandemic environment, I think that Tokyo would have definitely rivaled London, and it may have surpassed London. But given the circumstances, I'm gonna stick with London 2012. The environment in London was absolutely incredible. From Olympic to Paralympic is pretty equal. The understanding and awareness of Paralympic sport in the UK is absolutely it's through the roof. Everyone understands what's going on. That like Paralympians are on billboards, on game shows, on like it's just embedded into their uh into their culture. And no one really thinks any differently, where it's totally different here within the boundaries of the United States and probably a lot of other countries around the world. The competition was amazing. All of the track and field sessions were sold out. They showed so much love for, of course, for the Brits. They showed so much love for all of the athletes who competed. The facilities were incredible, amazing. It's always nice to compete in a country that speaks English. Um, and just, personally as an athlete, to be able to compete, then leave the stadium and say walk through one of the local malls, and people like, oh, we watched you compete, we saw you on TV, can we take a picture? Or those types of things. It just really makes you feel good. And yeah, I mean, London was absolutely just amazing.
So you've done more than compete. You've medaled, right? So maybe you
Yeah.
you can just talk about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do it for, right? To be able to get on that podium, to win a gold medal, silver or bronze, preferably gold. But to be on that podium, to know that, like, after you complete competition, to know that you have secured a medal winning finish, you're already like, oh, I can't wait for this. That like when we all of the times that I've competed, after I've secured my medal winning finish, you'll have an American flag that's thrown down to you, and you're holding it up in the air, and they're taking pictures. And you leave from the competition area, you then go to what is called the mix zone. That's where you talk to the media, and they're asking you about your impressions of the competition and how you felt, what how could it have been better? Did you do your best? All of those types of things. So you're dealing with the media. From there, you will then, you might immediately go to your medal ceremony, or your medal ceremony might be a few hours from that time. Like, if you compete at 5 p.m., your medal ceremony could be at 9 p.m. So you might have a little bit of time to wait around. But yeah, you then go and get your medal ceremony gear, because we have a totally different attire for when we stand on the podium. This year was one of the sickest ones, one of the dopest ones that we've had, where you had the all white, had the white mask as well, and I think the shoes were blue. But it was a very, very nice medal ceremony attire. And yeah, they walk you through the building, and eventually you get to the point where you can totally feel that if you take a couple more steps forward, that you are going to be out in the open in front of everybody. They, do the whole introduction and things like that, and you hear your name, you walk onto the stage, onto the podium. This year was a lot more special because the person who was handing out the medals, given COVID-19, they actually handed your medal to your guide. So the person who helps you, who assists you in competition, and your guide was the one who placed the medal around your neck. And so I think that for my guide, Wesley, that was a really special moment for us. That has never happened before. So the very person who helped you to get to that point was the person who awarded you with the medal. And it doesn't get much better than that.
That's amazing. So, I mean, I know the answer to this, but maybe you can tell the audience of how you finished in the games, and then maybe that would also cue up, what's next for your athletic endeavors.
The finish in Tokyo. So I finished with the silver. Definitely wanted the gold. Always going for the gold, but the silver is better than the bronze. Is better than nothing. And to even be at the Paralympics, there's a lot of athletes who unfortunately didn't make it to the games. So certainly perspective is everything when you really break it down and look at it. But that continues to fuel that fire for the road ahead. 3 years to go until Paris. I'll get back out here in the next month or so and start that transformation, because I'm right now I'm in like out of shape mode. So I need to get back out there and get back in shape and get turn into a Optimus Prime. I need to transform, get back into some competition shape.
Jeez, I should be in San Diego now. Now would be the time to invite you for a beer, because once you start transforming, that's it, right?
Come on.
There you go. So outside of athletics, I just want to have a couple more questions. What do you do with your time? Like, what do you do for fun?
For fun, of course, being here in San Diego, you have beaches, I'll check out movies every now and then. I like to listen to YouTube. I'm definitely get trapped into that YouTube rabbit hole at times, listen to books on Audible, hang out with my guide, Wesley. We love to just go out and do anything except for like sport. You need that time to mentally rest and recover, and to really give yourself the chance to breathe. Certainly love to travel. I love to check out other sports, basketball, football, baseball. Shout out to the Atlanta Braves, World Series winners. I'm from North Carolina, and we don't have a baseball team. So growing up, I always rooted for the Braves. And so, yeah, I mean, just really wanted to just have a good time. Love music. I do a lot of speaking as well for different organizations and companies. And although people may think look at it as work, that is a lot of fun too.
Oh no, for sure. The Atlanta Braves, I think it's been about a quarter century, 26 years or something.
You know what? I was jabbing some Cowboys fans recently, because I was like, man, you know what? I think the last time the Braves won was when the Cowboys won the title. And Cowboys fans always, every single year, we're gonna win the Super Bowl. No.
Yeah. What was it? What, 95 maybe? I
think so. Yeah, the Cowboys won in 95. I think the Braves too in 95.
I think it was 95. I think so. Yeah. It's been a while. So just maybe to wrap up, I was when I think about your story, other people who have pushed the boundaries as Paralympic athletes as well, but you certainly embody that, in that you have taken an obstacle and in some ways made it your strength, and it brings to mind a book that I read a while back. It called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I don't know if you heard of that book, but
I have not, but I'm about to put that in the queue.
Yeah, no, that's it's a great book. A lot of sports teams actually picked that one up apparently. But yeah, I'm just wondering if you have any, words of wisdom. So other people who, I guess if I had to put it, if you could do for other people what your mom did for you in terms of mindset around what's often perceived as a disability, what would you want to tell a broader audience of people who might be listening?
Yeah, I think a lot of it revolves around my mantra, which is no need for sight when you have a vision. A lot of people hear that or look at that and say, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. He's blind. This person's visually impaired." That that resonates with them. When in actuality, I think that is something that should resonate with everyone. It's not our sight or lack of sight at the end of the day that really determines success. It's your ability to see a vision and to develop a plan and to connect with the right people and to do everything in your power to bring that vision into fruition. For me, when I had lost my sight, the challenge was I felt isolated and disconnected from the rest of the world because I couldn't see, and because of how the world tends to treat us as people who are blind or people who have a disability. The realization was that everything that has been created and everything that will be created always starts with a vision. You see it within yourself, you see it within others before it can move to that next step of becoming reality. And where you are currently and where your vision is, there's probably a little bit of a gap, but your ability to develop that plan and again connect with the appropriate people, and you to have that resilience and to be relentless, that's going to help you to close that gap. And eventually what you saw off in the horizon, off in the distance, it's going to be something that you can reach out and touch. And that goes for any of us, whether we have a visual impairment or not.
I can see why people invite you to speak. You're quite inspirational. And then if there's no objections, I might steal your mantra. No need for sight when you have a vision, and use it for the title for this podcast. I think it's a great title. Well, I give you credit for that. So, Lex, this has been a lot of fun. We certainly wish you all the best in the training and as you get into Optimus Prime mode, and certainly be rooting for you down the road. But it's certainly been a pleasure speaking with you, and hopefully it's not the last time.
Definitely. I appreciate it, Sean. Yeah, we'll have to do this again. We'll have to do it at the Pairs.
We can maybe do that in person. That'd be great. I'm going to put that on the calendar. I don't have any bookings for 2024 just yet. So
okay.
All right, Lex. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it.
And that concludes today's episode of the Broad Eye Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Of course, ratings and reviews are always welcome. And you can certainly share this episode with any of your colleagues or friends who might enjoy it. Thanks for listening.